Thank you very much. We have a lot to say, but we will try to keep it short, as we have heard a lot of insightful speeches this morning. I am currently in my first mandate in the European Parliament. In the last mandate of the European Parliament and of the European Union, we had the famous Fit for 55 package. In this mandate, what I'm trying to do along with my colleagues is have a fit for purpose package, a package which works in practice. So let's talk frankly. Maritime freight is not any other segment of the Maltese economy. It is our lifeline. It is our supply chain. Every container, every trailer, every pallet, it starts at sea. And the ETS extension to maritime will change not just your cost structures, your operating margins, and turnaround times, but also it will feed directly into consumer prices. That is a fact. 2 weeks ago, I was at the European Commission arguing Malta's case ahead of the upcoming ETS review. Even earlier in December, I wrote to the European Commission, both through a letter and also through direct questions, asking direct questions about its plans on the Combined Transport Directive, for example, which has been on the back burner for a long while now. The answer was simple. On the 19th of January, the Commission informed us in writing, in black and white, that they intend to withdraw the proposal of a revision of the European Combined Transport Directive. And we engaged directly with the Commission. We engaged with our colleagues in the Transport and Tourism Committee, and we have brought about a substantive change. The coordinators, those who lead the European Transport and Tourism Committee, have decided, thanks to our initiative, to ask the Commission directly to express the European Parliament's position that the European Parliament does not agree. And the European Parliament, as a co-legislator, has asked the Commission not to withdraw the proposed revision of the Combined Transport Directive. And I'm glad to hear that our Minister for Transport is also engaging in similar work in the European Council, which is also necessary to ensure that the proposed revision stays on the table. So our work is not just in slogans or in rhetoric, but it is also in numbers, in route exposure, freight intensity, pass-through effects, competitiveness against non-EU hubs. For some member states, the extension of the ETS is just an adjustment, and this is the problem many times, because many EU regulations are drafted with a continental perspective. For Malta, it is much more than that. It is structural. Our intermodality is maritime-based. A single maritime leg, as you would all know, from Malta to Genoa is roughly 1,000 kilometers, is the equivalent of a road trip from Brussels to Barcelona or Madrid. Except for us, this is not optional. It is the first leg of almost every supply chain. So when carbon pricing hits that leg, it hits our entire economy. That is why I have been pushing for realism in the ETS review. Decarbonization, yes, but it has to be calibrated and sequenced. And of course, geographically aware of our realities and specificities. You have seen the debate recently also around an island clause across the political divide. Good. Because this is not about politics or ideology, it is about structural exposure. We are small, but we are determined. And when we align, we move things. Let me give an example. Very early in my mandate, the first year of my mandate as a member of the European Parliament, I brought the very first TRAN delegation to Malta and Gozo. It was not an exercise in protocol or politics, but it was intended to show my colleagues what maritime dependency actually looks like. We stood on the quay side, we engaged with ATTO, with Transport Malta, with port operators, with freight forwarders, and they saw the distance, they saw the double insularity of Gozo. They understood that modal shift for Malta starts and ends at sea. That visit changed the tone in committee, because once you see it, you simply cannot ignore it. On the Combined Transport Directive, there was a real risk, as I said earlier, that the proposal would simply disappear. And thanks to our sustained engagement, we hope to see it on the table, not just ahead, but this year in 2026. That matters because without that file, maritime-based intermodality risks being sidelined again, as it has been the case for a number of years. This results in practice, not just rhetoric. I have built strong working relations with the Commissioner for Transport and Tourism, Apostolos Tsiksikostas, and also with those who pull the strings, the officers in the services of DG Move and DG Klima. I have asked the Commission to come to Malta. We brought members of the European Parliament. Now I am pressing the European Commission and the Commissioner himself to come to Malta, and I hope that we will manage to bring the Commissioner this year, if not this year, in the next year. This is not for ceremony. We want the Commission to see implementation realities firsthand, because if Brussels wants compliance, first it has to understand our context. Next month, I will host a dedicated event at the European Parliament to elevate this debate even further. I am glad that ATTO has accepted our invitation to join us, and I will invite also the relative policymakers and stakeholders to join us. Let's push this together. Fuel EU Maritime is moving in the right direction on emissions as emissions intensify, but supply of alternative fuels is still limited. Infrastructure is still uneven. Mandates without infrastructure create distortion, and we have learned this lesson in aviation. We should not repeat it at sea. If we expect maritime operators to transition, we must first ensure predictability, clear timelines, investment support, and port readiness. Because otherwise, traffic simply shifts outside of the European Union, as we have seen over the past months and years, with no environmental gain after all. This is not about resisting transition, but it is rather about managing it intelligently. Malta is a major flex state, a logistics hub, and a Mediterranean connector. We are not asking for exemption, we are simply asking for proportion. Maritime decarbonisation must strengthen Europe's resilience and not weaken its silent links. We will not stop here. We will keep pressing in committee with the Commission, with member states in the European Council, because the question is not how small we are, but how determined we actually are. And on maritime freight, we are very determined. Thank you very much.